What's up everybody, Jesse here. Welcome to the second episode of the Hylians Gamescast. Here with me as always is Daniel, who you all know from my channel, but we also have our very first special guest, YellowKillerBee. So for those who may not know who you are, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and let them know where they can find you and what they can expect from your channel.
Oh, sure. First of all, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure. I stream on Twitch TV, and I've been doing speedrunning on my channel for about 3 years. So yeah, what you can expect from my channel, I do keep it family friendly, so that's nice. So if you have little kids who want to watch, you can definitely bring them along. I do a lot of Mario games, a lot of Disney games, some casual, but mostly I keep it speedrunning focused. And yeah, we just have a good time. It's kind of a laid back, casual, happy stream.
Yeah, and you were just doing a stream yesterday that I caught, I guess, the middle of. What game were you streaming there? And it was a speedrun as well, or were you just messing around with it?
Oh, sure. Well, actually, yesterday I was doing a special. I just hit 7,000 followers, and so I try to do a marathon whenever I hit like a milestone like that. And so I'd been kind of putting off this Disney marathon, and so what I did for that was I randomly chose a different Disney game out of my collection for every hour. And so there were some speed runs. I think there was Mickey Mania for Super Nintendo and Quackshot for Genesis, and both of those are games that I have speedrun in the past. And then there was just a lot of other random things. There were some NES Disney games, there were some Super Nintendo Disney games, and so yeah, I like switching it up with stuff like that for special events, because it's nice for a longer stream to have a lot of variety, and you never know what you're going to be playing next.
Yeah, and a lot of people who may not know you from your streams may know you from the recent Nintendo World Championships that happened. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with that? How you entered, what the trip was like, and meeting all of the other contestants?
Sure. Well, and that is just, I mean, there's so much to tell. I'll try to keep it not super long, but yeah, the first surprise was the fact that they actually reached out to me to be in the championships. The format of it was that there was 8 invited players and then 16 players in 2 different age groups that competed. And so basically just someone from Nintendo, Ed Murray, sent me a message on Twitch and was like, hey, we have something we want to talk to you about. And I'm like, why is Nintendo, like, I to be perfectly honest, I thought it was like some scam email. Like,
are you a brand ambassador for Nintendo?
What was that?
Are you a brand ambassador for Nintendo? Like,
no.
Where they send you the free games and everything?
No, I'm not. No.
So is this your first time that they've reached out to you? Right.
This was my absolute first, time that I'd gotten anything from them, and so I was very surprised, and I was like, okay, but eventually I decided that it was worth the risk to respond to them.
Oh, yeah.
And then they emailed me back, and they had like their corporate number on there, and I'm like, okay, so maybe this is legitimate. And then I got to talk to Ed, and it's like, wow, this is actually happening. This is actually real. And I got to ask him, like, how did I end up on their radar? Because my stream, like, I've been streaming for a while, but I'm not someone who can stream all the time. Like, the most successful streamers, I think, can have a pretty robust schedule of streaming, lots of times a week, for lots of hours at a time. And my life is just very full of lots of good things outside of Twitch, and so it kind of keeps my Twitch schedule to, maybe 2-3 nights a week. And so I was like, I'm just not the biggest streamer out there. I'm not the most popular streamer out there. How in the world did I get on this Nintendo list? And what they said was, like, I volunteer at Games Done Quick. That's something I've been doing for the past 3 years. And I volunteer to host there, which is a ton of fun, and it's a great charity. And I guess someone from Nintendo was at one of the events, and just somehow when they asked him, hey, we're looking for some speedrunners to be on this list, can you give us some names? I ended up on there, and they said they really liked my stream, which was awesome. Like, to have Nintendo come and say, hey, we liked your stream.
I guess
that's amazing.
Like, wow.
The whole family
that's really cool
thing helped out a lot. Because if they would have
Yeah.
tuned in,
that would.
Yeah, if they would have tuned in and it would have been you saying a bunch of horrible stuff, they would have just... All right, let's move on to the next person.
No, I think that's 100% true, because Nintendo obviously has a very family-friendly, image that they're maintaining, and so I'm glad that I kind of fit into that framework that they were looking for their speedrunners. So the next thing that happened is I had to sign a non-disclosure, and that was really hard, because then like almost 6 weeks went by when I couldn't tell anybody that I was going. And it was actually really funny, because I threw this big birthday party for my husband the very next day after I found out I was going, and like all the people I knew were there, and I just couldn't tell anybody. And then like my brother brought up Nintendo, and I was just like,
oh no.
I was just holding it in all day long.
That would be so hard.
It was terrible. It really was. I mean, obviously I told my husband and we talked about it, but other than that, I didn't tell anybody. And then they kept it a secret until like the week before the event. It was a very late announcement of who all was going. And so I couldn't tell anybody until like the week before. And then I'm like, hey, I'm going to New York now.
Yeah, and they had the people that they selected, and then there was the celebrities. Bailey from WWE was there. And there were also people that went to some of the Best Buy competitions that they had. So did you feel a bit odd that you were being hand selected instead of like earning your spot by competing beforehand? Because if I was in your shoes, I would, because if you go to Best Buy and you are like at the top of the leaderboards or whatever they're doing to see who needs to be progressing and who doesn't make it, you're beating all of the people there and the people at the other Best Buy. So in your head, you're like, okay, I'm good enough to get in, so I have nothing to worry about. But whenever they tell you, hey, we're picking you because of your Twitch channel, and you don't have necessarily the experience of going to the Best Buy and competing beforehand, was that like an odd feeling for you? That's like, oh, what if I get there and I'm horrible compared to these other people? Or do you think the speed running from the games that you do speed run carries over to some of the other games?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different things there. The first one was, what did I feel out of place? And I did a little bit, but mostly because I was like in the like famous person category, and I'm not a famous person. Like I said, my stream isn't even that popular, and so I definitely felt like I didn't really feel like, because there was like an actor and like you said Bailey and other streamers that are a lot more popular, or people that have won competitions and then there's me, and I'm just like, oh, okay, well, I'm here. And so I guess I did feel a little bit out of place, but I've had a lot of experience going to events and things like that, and so I think that helped me kind of ease into everything, and so I didn't really feel awkward. But if there was something about not fitting into the category, that would probably be it. As far as not competing, I knew that the games would all be kind of a surprise for the most part going in, and so you wouldn't know what you were going to be playing anyway. So I was like, well, I'm pretty sure I won't be better at Mario Kart, because that was the game that they all competed to get in with. But and I knew like Smash, I wasn't going to be good at Smash, and that was just inevitable because I haven't played a ton of it. But I thought, well, I'm just going to do my best that I can with the other games that I think might be there, and because nobody can really be good at everything unless you're John Numbers, then you're a major. But
the
most
exception.
people. And then the third kind of point would be, it's not that serious of a competition. I mean, obviously some people did take it more seriously than others, but I was definitely in that kind of middle ground where I was like, I don't want to embarrass myself, but I don't really expect to win either. And so as long as I end up somewhere in the middle, I'm happy with it. And Nintendo did have a more laid back feeling, like as far as the competition side of things. You didn't come in as if it's some big esport thing and you're like, everyone's super serious. So I appreciated that. It made it much more comfortable.
All right. And do you have any questions about the Nintendo World Championships that you would like to ask her, Daniel?
Yeah, so of the games that you got the opportunity to go with there, what was your favorite one?
Was my favorite game that we got to play? Probably Metroid. Yeah. I did really well. I did really well at Metroid, and that was that was probably one of the highlights for me, because I actually finished first in my category. One of the things people said was they couldn't tell what was going on because of the way they chose to switch the camera around a lot, which I think that's just something that Nintendo not having like esports events as often as some other, you know, people do, like Riot Games or some companies like that. They're not quite as polished as actually knowing what people might want to see. And so a lot of the like after they would be done with the game, like people wouldn't even know like who finished first until they showed the scoreboard up, just because of the way the camera was rotating. But for me, like I knew that I did really well in that category, and I was like, you know, that's good, because I'm probably not going to be out the first round, which was a relief. And and Metroid's just really fun, and it was kind of right up my speedrunning alley, the section that we got to play.
Yeah. And what was it like hanging out with all of the other contestants? Was everyone kind of off to themselves or being shy, or was it like a big friendly thing to where everyone was just getting along and talking?
Right. Well, for the most part, it was actually really, really friendly, and I didn't know how it was going to be at all. Like I kind of assumed that maybe some of the more quote unquote famous people would be a little bit more standoffish. But it was funny because I actually ran into Asa Butterfield, who was the actor from England, the very first night when we checked in. I said, oh hi, you know, are you here for the championship? And we introduced ourselves. And I'm like, oh, maybe that'll be the last I see him the entire week. No, we hung out the whole week because he was there with his brother and I was there with my brother. And so the four of us just got along really well. And then like pretty much all the invited players were all awesome. And part of it is a lot of them had been to events and were kind of comfortable kind of hanging out and chatting and talking. So it was really easy to talk to them. But I did also like try to make special effort to reach out to like some of the kids and stuff, especially because if you're not used to doing like an event and being in front of people, it can be very nerve-wracking. And so I wanted to make sure that, you know, I could talk to them and try to make them feel more comfortable if I could. And then of course their parents are there, and so we're talking to them, and I think I was the oldest competitor there. And so, you know, I'm not like that far off in age from some of these parents. I have two stepkids who are 12 and 15. And so that's like the age of some of the competitors there. And so it was just kind of nice to be able to mingle with everybody and kind of, you know, make everybody feel as comfortable as possible in the group.
Yeah. During the first Nintendo World Championships, I thought it was... I don't know the best way to say it. This might sound bad, but I thought it was kind of annoying for me that it was like half the people was there because they entered the competition, and then the other half were just selected. And they were selected because they were speedrunners or whatever. And I thought, like, I just didn't like it, because it seems like, well, what if there was someone who would have actually been good and they could have entered and like made the competition? But as I was watching it the second time, I was thinking, well, most of the people that they're picking because they're, quote, famous is people who became well-known and were picked because they are good at playing these games. Like a lot of the speedrunners who were, like, they're not famous just because they got lucky or because they're famous like some YouTubers are, where they just happen to get a lot of views. With the speedrunners, they practice day after day for weeks, sometimes years, to get as best as they can at the game. So in a way, they are chosen because of their skill. So I just wanted to mention that because it was like a realization for me that's like, oh, well, these people aren't being picked just because they're popular. They're popular because they're actually really skilled at what they do. Which makes me ask, what made you get into speedrunning?
Well, actually, I saw a video on YouTube. It was actually a video from a Games Done Quick event. Runner guy doing his Ocarina of Time 100%. I think that was from 2013. And I was just like, Ocarina of Time was one of my favorite games growing up, and it's such a good game. And I saw, like, to watch this guy do, like, I think it was like at that point like an 8-hour speed run. It was ridiculously long, and he wore Link costume and he played it, and just the fact that I mean, that game is really broken. It's like, as a speed run, it's one of the most broken games that you can play.
Yeah.
And just Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, it was really odd. I was writing for Zelda Dungeon, I believe, at the time, whenever one of the glitches was found out. But it was, like, there was already an established record or something with Ocarina of Time, and everyone has known a lot of the glitches for decades, or, well, not decades, but over a decade. I think next year will be the year's 20th anniversary. So the game's been out for almost 20 years, and people have known glitches since the first year it's came out, but they're still discovering glitches, because when I was writing a Zelda Dungeon, one of the speedrunners, I assume, found the glitch to where you can go inside the Deku tree, and then it warps you as a child to Hyrule Castle, or Ganon's castle, falling down. And I thought that was really interesting. I was like, how in the world does, like, going through the door take you? Like, what is wrong with this game that this can happen? So
yeah, I was just blown away by all of that. I mean, it was kind of twofold for me, because the glitches were so fascinating, and then also the fact that you know, they were playing it so fast, and I could watch it and kind of relive my nostalgia for the game without actually having to play through it myself, because Ocarina of Time is kind of a long game and I don't have a ton of time. And so that's what drew me in, because then I started looking on YouTube for more videos from Games Done Quick of saying, okay, well, did they do Banjo-Kazooie? Did they do Super Mario World? You know, I like looked up all these games that I beat as a kid and watched the speedrun, and was always just like, oh my gosh, they're like, they skipped that whole part, or I remember this, or wasn't the music great? And so it was kind of this, you know, mashup of like benefits for me. And then I discovered Twitch, and then it was like, oh wow, I can watch people playing these games live, speedrunning live all the time. And then from there, it was just kind of like a short step to, I think at first, I think I didn't have time, which, like I've mentioned that before. Not that I'm super busy, I just try to keep everything really balanced in my life and not do too much on Twitch, or too much work, or too much of anything. I try to keep everything kind of evened out. And so I was like, I never have time to do a speed run. I'm imagining these people putting, you know, hundreds and thousands of hours into these games to get the perfect time. And I'm like, I'm never going to be able to do that. But then slowly I realized that I didn't have to have the best time to still have a good time doing it, like to still enjoy myself. And so I was like, well, I should just try it. And even if I don't get a world record, or I'm not the best, it still might be fun. And so then I just tried it, and I was kind of hooked from there.
And
Awesome.
did you have your Twitch before you started the speedrunning, or did you start both at the same time?
I actually had it before. It was funny because, like, if you have certain plugins, you can see like how long everyone's been on Twitch. And I looked at mine today, and it was 5 years I've been on Twitch. But I didn't start speedrunning until 2014. But the 2 years before that, the only thing I used Twitch for was watching League of Legends esports, because I used to play a lot of League of Legends. And back then it was like it would run better on Twitch than it would on YouTube, and so I would just watch that. So yeah, it was funny because I was on Twitch, but I didn't like make that speedrunning connection in my brain until like 2 years later. So
yeah. And since you've came back from the Nintendo World Championships, obviously I've reached out to you for the interview, but has any other opportunities come up? Any other people reach out to you for interviews on your experiences, or companies wanting you to maybe review stuff or stream their games? Has anything like that happened for you?
I did have an interview with a local radio station, which I thought was very interesting because I don't really talk about streaming too much in like my day-to-day life, because most of the time the reaction is confusion. Like, people don't know what it is, they don't know what to make of it, they're not really necessarily interested, and so I usually don't talk about it. So the fact that a local station, you know, somehow got my name and like wanted me to do an interview. So I did an interview for a local radio piece, but that's pretty much been it. It's kind of interesting because, like I said, with so many people being in the competition and me not being super well known beforehand, I wasn't really expecting any huge opportunities, but I did get to know a lot of people at the Nintendo at Nintendo Seattle pretty well, and so they invited me out to come have a tour sometime, and so maybe I'll take take advantage of that because I think that would be fun.
And
You should definitely do it.
have you toured Nintendo, Daniel?
Oh, me? No.
No.
God, goodness,
Okay.
no. But I found out Nintendo Canada's office is really close to my home, so I was like,
go.
maybe I should,
Yeah,
I should go break in. No, I'm kidding. I'm not gonna break in.
Yeah, I was joking around with them the other day. I said you should just go knock on a window and be like, "Hi, I'm Daniel."
Hi. Hi,
Daniel.
thanks for
I
the
have a
copy of
podcast,
Fire
let me
Emblem.
The videos on this channel are funded by supporters on Patreon like you. If you're a fan of this channel and would like to join on videos, receive shoutouts, watch videos early, have your questions answered, or have your topic discussed on our podcast, please consider supporting on Patreon for these and many other rewards for just $1. Shoutouts for this video includes Linkus the Triforce, Rusty Caulfield, Lovable Christie, GiveTime15, Shadow to Us, Robbie Morgan, and Lunarium. I want to thank all of you for everything you have done to help support this channel.